What if I told you that these two bricks floating in mid-air are not double pinned? These bricks are actually soft pinned. See, if you unpin it and pick it back up, they'll both get picked back up. You may think there's a hex-edited brick in between the bricks, but no! This is a new feature on brick rigs called Weld. And I have great concerns for this new thing. Despite players wanting this for quite some time now, basically since when scale bars have been added, even though it can benefit in some things like lag, this also comes with a cost. This is version 1.10.14. In this version we'll be talking about the new hosting features, comebacks, bugs, editing features, and how there's a new way to be respected in brick rigs. Now how Weld just changed brick rigs forever. Comebacks. Do you remember when you were able to destroy vehicles in the main menu in Legacy Brick Rigs? Well, the last time you were able to do that was around 2017 to 2018. At least that's what Google says, because there's still concrete evidence when the feature was in game. But what if I told you that was 8 years ago? Which is absurd. I even had to pull up the calculator just to make sure that Google was right. But 8 years later, you can do it again. But this time it works differently. Instead of a car being selected by the developer, Floopy, it's now selected differently, which we'll get into in a minute. But before you get into that, I'd just like to mention that I love the feature where you could just play around destroying vehicles before actually getting to play the game. Honestly, I do not think this will make a comeback, but here we are. But one thing I don't like right now is how there's smoke when you hit it and a lot more hole to destroy vehicles because it's made out of scalpels. But whatever, at least it's back. Now finally, let's get into how there's a new way to be respected in brick rigs. Respected in brick rigs. Everyone knows that the best way to be respected in brick rigs is to be the first result on the front page. And there is hundreds upon hundreds of workshop vehicles that did just that. Victorious, good, or forgotten. And I actually managed to do this 2 times. First with the infamous chicken jockey, and most notably, Fast Fredbear. And somehow stayed first on the front page for 2 weeks. Possibly one of the longest I ever got on the front page. Maybe the longest I ever get. And thanks for the support on this video, and sincerely helped a lot. Now there is a way to have a vehicle on a whole entire tab itself. Not kidding. It's called Featured, and the way to get on it is a whole other story. See, the developer Floopy actually think your vehicle is cool or whatever, it'll go on this page. But you may think this is easy and all you have to do is make a cool car, right? But that's not the case. Someone's personality's likelihood can be totally different than what you make, which means it could be totally impossible to get on this page. But I do have one tip. He does seem like yours semi-trucks, mostly cowboys, and most importantly, detail and colors that stand out. But you also have to remember that he's not thinking about himself, but you. And also have to think of the community and how it's going to impact brick rigs in a positive way. But like I said, it's completely random. So you're going to have to think wisely after this advice I just gave you. Now you know all that stuff, and let's just forget about it for now, and let's move on to bugs and edit stuff. Bugs and edit stuff. There's actually not a whole lot of things in edit mode that did change, but it did change some minor stuff. And also don't forget Weld, which we'll get to in a couple minutes. First we have pattern scales, and to be honest, we did not need this. But thanks. Here's how it works. You can scale your pattern to 5% to 1000%. Same with the other side. There's pattern offset too, which goes to -1 to 1. Also same with the other side. And there's also pattern rotation, which goes from -180 to 180. And unfortunately there are no new patterns. Personally, in my opinion, it would be neat to have a zebra pattern, but I don't think that'll happen. And yes, if you press C, you can see there's no longer 3 modes. There are now 5. The new ones being in a white and a rough chrome. And if you click the thing that you're working on twice, it will go into all select. But there's nothing brick-wise, so unfortunately there are no new bricks. And then there's bugs. When you try to select a brick that's in a brick, that game will select the brick that you're inside of, so that way you have to hide that brick, so that way you can select the brick you want. And when you're trying to hide a brick that's stacked, you have to move your mouse why you'll do that. And finally, for the first time ever, whitelist isn't working. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Players no longer have to be forced to drive a car that they don't like, and they're now able to drive a car that they like. But there's a problem if the server host or that regularly hosts a server that has a whitelist. The whitelist won't be able to work, and I had this problem myself hosting my Demo Derby series official server. And it's gone to the point where some players can spawn their car but others can't, which I find strange. It almost seems like some players have to wait longer for their whitelist to load than usual. And you have a potato PC, this can take over 30 minutes just to have a whitelist load, and it's gotten to the point where I had to spawn cars for players due to this bug. And I even had to temporarily shut down the server before it got over with. But if it gets to the point where your whitelist is not working, it's just probably best to turn it off. Hosting features. Now let's talk about hosting features. There's not much to say, so I'll make it quick. There's a new password thing. I don't know if this is a co-host thing, but I'm not sure. And there's some things that you can do in-game while hosting a server, but I have not been able to test them. Wow, that was short. Told you that was quick. World. Something that the Brickwix community has been asking for years now. Maybe since Brickwix itself has been made. It doesn't seem bad on paper in Legacy, but years later we have scalables. And to this day, it doesn't seem bad on paper. And well thought by the creator Floopy, but let me tell you, it was not thought up well. And why, you may ask? Well, some people know the creator Floopy is very careful adding features and updates, and he's been like that ever since the beginning. Basically not trying to impact the game in a negative way, like adding image breaks or horns with custom sounds, which is something that will impact the game negatively. And for a change that will possibly change Brickwix forever, and I could tell that he thought of this months in advance, as he knew World would impact the community in unexpected ways, like how edit space doubled 5 times in one update, and how scalables went to 150 to 300, giving players the ability to make mega structures. And I had to think the same way when I was making my Demo Derby Juggernaut series, because I knew how players would use it in other servers. But do you remember when I said it comes at a cost? Because I knew something like this was added, some players would try to abuse it in negative ways. Here's an example. This is a 1/16 brick tank, one of mine that I welded together. And this is the MD 2.5, one of my favorite tanks that I made. As you may know, it was in a crappy video that no one watched. And now if I shoot at the tank, it's undrivable, but there's not much damage overall. And if I shoot at the tank again, there's still not much damage. And if I keep shooting as long as I want it, you're getting to the point where the only parts still there are the welded parts. This is what I'm concerned about, that players could use weld for indestructible tanks. Luckily, this tank is not strong enough to withstand the MD 2.5. But still, it will get to the certain point where players will figure out how to make completely indestructible tanks. And luckily, there's no one that has figured this out yet. And like I said, it doesn't seem bad on paper, but in reality, players will figure out how to use things like this in negative and unexpected ways. So I just want to say one thing to Flippy and players of the game. If there's ever a feature that will impact the game greatly, please use it wisely. Because if you don't, you will make the community more corrupt. And I want you to take this advice and use it well. Because like I said, if you don't, bad things will happen. And dark times will consume Brickwix. Bonus. The Walker Launcher got a remake. There's a lot to talk about, but the most noticeable detail is the simplicity. And I hate it. It looks like it has succumbed to the app simplicity that everyone loves to hate on. But maybe you like it. That's just my honest opinion. But it does have something that everyone has been begging for years now. It has a scope accessory. Finally, it has happened. This includes the hollow sight from the AK, as you might as well know, and the sniper scope, which obviously belongs to the sniper. But no suppressor, though. But it would be funny if it had one on there. And there is now modes for the rocket launcher, as it says that is a multi-purpose rocket launcher that was made in the BRD. The modes are heat seek, explosive, and why I don't really know. And it's funny how the rocket launcher got overhauled, but the other guns have not changed one bit in years. But I'll certainly like to see more guns in the game and other ones getting changed drastically like the rocket launcher. But as you may know, players have been asking for new guns for almost a decade now, and it has not affected Flippy one bit. And that seems like we have reached to the point where he just doesn't care. And it seems like we reached the end of this video. Now, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you learned something, and you learned how to use properly and not use it the wrong way. And as always, have a good day, and also do that thing you've been wanting to do for a while now.
Now here is a boo who knows how to do his job. Help! You have found the fugitive? Yes! Joyful exclamation! Where is he? Well, there is a tiny problem. As long as it's tiny, who cares? Well, before I got the password, I erased